In a desolate, black and white cemetery under a bleak sky, a sense of foreboding is established not by action, but by stillness. A classic black Pontiac glides slowly along a gravel road, its approach captured by a slow forward, tracking shot that feels less like an arrival and more like an intrusion. Inside the car, sibling tension simmers. Immediately, Barbara and Johnny's conversation about daylight savings is not small talk, but the first fracture in their shared reality. Their debate over the purpose of this somber trip lays bare their contrasting characters. Barbara performs a duty, Johnny resents an obligation. As Johnny retrieves a small bundle from the backseat, the film's minimalist framing keeps us trapped in the car with their growing alienation. Barbara exits the car, seeking escape from both the grave and her brother's cynicism, leaving Johnny to his solitude and a malfunctioning radio. A tight shot on the Pontiac emblem, followed by the slam of a door, acts as a punctuation mark, closing the scene of domestic discord. Alone, Johnny fiddles with the radio dial, its harsh static bleeding into the soundtrack, a first audible crack in the normal world. A low, oppressive string score swells as Johnny exits the car, the weight of the artificial wreath in his hand mirroring the film's newly introduced emotional gravity. The camera cranes down from skeletal tree branches, imposing a gothic, almost predatory architecture over the siblings as they walk. A tracking shot follows them through rows of tombstones, their footsteps echo unnaturally loud in the silence, amplifying every minor discomfort into a potential threat. A slow, backward dolly shot follows them to the Blair family plot, the music slowing to a funeral dirge, formally acknowledging the act they've come to perform. In a high-angle shot, Johnny kneels to place the cross. His actions are perfunctory, his dialogue laced with a cheap cynicism about the commercialism of mourning. A close-up on Barbara reveals genuine, if quiet sorrow, a stark contrast to Johnny's performative irreverence. Johnny continues his morbidly practical critique, the high angle now making him look small and petty against the vastness of death. As Barbara kneels to pray, Johnny stands, fidgeting. The static medium shot emphasizes their physical and spiritual separation at this moment. A medium close-up locks on Johnny's face as his impatience boils over. He checks his watch, a gesture that screams of modern impatience in the face of ancient ritual. He looks away, bored, and a distant rumble of thunder signals, not just a changing weather, but a shift in the film's very genre. In a deep focus long shot, a lone stiffly moving figure appears on the distant horizon. It is a masterstroke of suspense, introducing the threat as a barely perceptible blur. Johnny's attention is caught. A cut to his POV Faye, another long shot Faye confirms the strangeness of the man's gait. The threat is identified, but not yet understood. Instead of alarm, Johnny's reaction is to put on a pair of black leather gloves. The sound of the leather is intimate, sinister. He is preparing not for defense, but for a performance. With a malevolent smile, Johnny points to the trees, resurrecting a childhood ghost story. He is weaponizing the environment's inherent creepiness to torment his sister. A low-angle close-up on Barbara shows her fear breaking through her solemnity. Johnny's tones are no longer just annoying, they are becoming violation. The nightmare begins not with a monster's roar, but with the shattering of a sibling dynamic. Johnny's childish terrorizing has left Barbara isolated and vulnerable. And then the punchline of his sick joke arrives. The distant figure Johnny pointed to as a prop is now a tangible, approaching reality. Barbara's warning, Faye, he'll hear you, Faye, is the last gasp of rationality before the world turns upside down. Johnny's bravado vanishes, replaced by primal urgency. And over, the shoulder shot from behind the ghoul establishes its target. Barbara, backed against the tombstone. The low, dissonant score becomes a heartbeat of dread. A jarring cut to a close-up of Johnny's face shows the instant his mocking smile curdles into genuine confusion and fear. Chaos erupts in a flurry of frantic handheld shots. The stable framings of the cemetery are gone, replaced by a subjective maelstrom of violence. The attack is brutally efficient. Johnny is slammed head first into a tombstone. The sound design makes the impact visceral and final. A tight close-up on Barbara captures the precise moment her mind fractures. Her face contorts into a mask of pure, uncomprehending terror. A high-angle wide shot shows the ghoul kneeling over Johnny's limp body, then slowly turning its dead eyes toward Barbara. This silent, predatory regard is more terrifying than any lunge. It triggers Barbara's flight, her scream tearing through the now relentless score. The chase is a symphony of panic. Long shots show her stumbling through a maze of tombstones, the ghoul a relentless, shuffling presence behind her. Terror is rendered in tactile details, a ghoulish hand lunging at the lens. Barbara's painful fall on a wet slope, a lost high heel in the grass. She reaches the car, scrambling over to the driver's seat in a claustrophobic subjective shot, locking the doors just as the ghoul reaches the window. Safety is an illusion. The ghoul begins pounding on the glass, its face a grotesque sculpture of hunger pressed against the pane. A frenzied close-up shows Barbara's trembling hands searching for keys, the sound of metal on plastic mirroring her shattered nerves. The barrier shatters. A rock smashes the window. Barbara's world, and the car's integrity, explode simultaneously. In a moment of desperate instinct, she releases the handbrake. The car rolls backward, dragging the ghoul briefly before crashing into a tree. Barbara escapes on foot, now barefoot, her flight into the woods scored by a cacophonous, rising orchestral tide. She bursts into a clearing and sees a farmhouse fey, a beacon of potential salvation in the overwhelming dark. Her desperate banging on the door is met with silence. The house offers shelter, but not sanctuary. It is empty, and she is utterly alone. She barricades herself inside. The loud clunk of the bolt a temporary victory against the terror outside. The interior is a new labyrinth of shadows. Her cautious exploration is filmed with slow, deliberate hands, making every open doorway a potential threat. Romero establishes atmosphere through empty spaces, a dining room with fluttering white curtains, an exercising haunting minimalism. In the kitchen, she arms herself with a large butcher knife. The act is logical, but the tight grip and her wide eyes speak of barely contained hysteria. Retreating into a dark hallway, deep focus photography creates a terrifying tableau. In the foreground, a grotesque mounted deer head. In the background, a terrified Barbara. A jarring jump cut to a spinning, glaring close-up of the deer's head, paired with a stinger cord, delivers the first major shock within the house. The environment itself is attacking her psyche. The external threat reaffirms itself as a ghoul begins, battering the exterior walls, searching for a way in. Barbara finds a phone, a lifeline to the world. The frantic spinning of the rotary dial is a rhythmic counterpoint to her hope, which dies with the sound of a dead line. Spotted at the window, she flees upstairs, only to discover the home's original occupant, a rotting corpse. The house is not a refuge, it is a tomb. Screaming, she flees back down and collides with a new figure in the doorway. Ben, a resourceful and pragmatic survivor, has entered the narrative. Ben immediately takes command, securing the house and assessing their situation. His dialogue is terse, factual, a stark contrast to Barbara's catatonia. Barbara, in the background, is now a ghost in her own story, completely shut down by trauma. Ben's investigation of the upstairs reveals the true horror. The dead are inside. 2. The house is compromised on every level. He returns, insisting they must leave, but Barbara, in her detached state, wanders and makes a horrifying discovery. Black viscous blood seeping under a door. This triggers her final breakdown. She grabs a knife and screams the film's central, unanswered question. Ben observes the growing horde outside. His calm declaration, "There is two," marks the transition from a personal nightmare to a sustained siege. In a grueling, extended sequence, Ben dispatches a ghoul with brutal, repetitive force. The violence is not glamorous. It is exhausting, messy work. He returns to the house, but the respite is brief. Another ghoul attacks, forcing a violent, close-quarters struggle inside the very sanctuary they've chosen. Victorious, but shaken, Ben fortifies the door and surveys the new reality. More ghouls emerging from the darkness, drawn to the commotion. He makes a strategic decision, using fire, dragging the corpse outside. He ignites it, creating a temporary barrier of light and fear. The flames hold the horde at bay, establishing a key rule of this new world. Ben's leadership is born of brutal experimentation. Inside, he tries to rally the catatonic Barbara. His instructions are clear, but he is essentially talking to a wall. Barbara, meanwhile, drifts through the house in a dissociative state. Her interaction with a creepy music box is a chilling moment of misplaced normalcy. Ben works with furious purpose, dismantling furniture to board up windows. The sound of his hammering becomes the new rhythm of their lives. He designates a safe room and explains his plan, revealing he has a truck but no gas. Escape is possible, but out of reach. As he works, he tells Barbara his story, a harrowing account of a world already fallen, of flaming trucks and silent, staring hordes. His monologue is a masterpiece of apocalyptic exposition, delivered not by a news anchor, but by a man who has lived it. Barbara, stirred by his story, begins her own fragmented, traumatic recall of the cemetery, slipping in and out of coherence. Ben, pushed to his limit by her hysterical demands to rescue her certainly dead brother, slaps her back to reality, and into unconsciousness. This harsh act is a grim mercy. He gently lays her down, then turns to the radio, seeking information from the crumbling outside world. The broadcast confirms the unbelievable. The dead are returning. As the news plays, Ben works, nailing boards with a fury that matches the escalating horror of the report. He finds a rifle and ammunition, a tangible increase in their defensive capability. He explains the situation to the stirring Barbara, positioning the upstairs as a watchtower. His investigation upstairs is another descent into horror, dragging away a female corpse as the radio below details cannibalism. This information finally penetrates Barbara's shock. She hears the door handle rattle, and the siege enters its most terrifying phase. The newcomers are Harry Cooper, his wife Helen, and Tom. They've been hiding in the basement. Their arrival shatters the fragile solidarity Ben has built. A tense confrontation erupts immediately. Harry argues for the safety of the basement via a single defensible door. Ben argues for the tactical advantage of the ground floor favorability and escape routes. The debate is not just about safety. It is a clash of ideologies. Harry represents fearful isolation. Ben represents pragmatic, if desperate, engagement. Harry, refusing to compromise, retreats to the basement with his injured daughter, Karen, and his wife, sealing themselves in. The group is irrevocably split. Downstairs, tension simmers between Harry and Helen. She challenges his authoritarian decision, making his need to be right, even at the cost of potentially vital information from the radio upstairs. A compromise is reached. Judy will swap places with Helen, allowing the Coopers to come upstairs and see the television news. The television report is a chillingly dry confirmation of the crisis. It provides actionable information. Headshots kill the ghouls, and rescue stations are being established. It also drops the film's iconic pseudo-scientific explanation. Radiation from a returning Venus probe is reanimating the dead. This information galvanizes a plan. Ben, knowing the location of a rescue station in Willard, proposes using the truck if they can fuel it. Tom, who knows the truck, volunteers for the dangerous fuel run. The plan is set. Create a diversion with Molotov cocktails from upstairs, then make a dash for the pump. In a quiet moment, Tom and Judy share a tender, heartbreaking exchange. Their love story is a tiny pocket of humanity in the dread, making the impending danger almost unbearable. The plan goes into motion. Barbara is moved to the basement for safety as Ben and Tom tear down the barricade they so painstakingly built. Upstairs, Harry prepares the firebombs. The horde is visible outside, a sea of shuffling shadows in the night. The diversion is a spectacular, horrific success. Flaming bottles arc through the night, erupting among the ghouls, creating a ring of fire and panic. Seizing the moment, Ben and Tom sprint for the truck, but chaos reigns. Harry, seeing the danger, tries to force Helen back into the basement and slams the door, abandoning Judy outside. Judy makes it to the truck, but the escape is immediately compromised. A ghoul, covered in flames, clings to the vehicle. Ben fights a desperate rearguard action from the truck bed with a torch, beating back grasping hands as Tom tries to drive to the pump. At the pump, disaster strikes. Tom breaks the key. Ben shoots the lock, but in the frantic fueling, gasoline spills and is ignited by Ben's torch. The truck becomes an inferno, trapping Tom and Judy inside. Their screams are swallowed by the explosion as the vehicle is consumed. The fire and noise act as a beacon, drawing every ghoul for miles toward the farmhouse. Ben, alone and weaponless, fights his way back to the door. Harry, in a final act of cowardice, hesitates to let him in. Ben forces his way inside, and a physical altercation ends with Ben taking the rifle and wounding Harry. Staggering downstairs, Harry collapses, but the true horror awaits in the basement. His daughter Karen, beaten earlier, has died and reanimated. In the film's most devastating moment, the little girl attacks her mother with a trowel. The violence is intimate, brutal, and perverts the deepest familial bond. Upstairs, the defenses finally fail. Ghouls pour into the house. Barbara is dragged out through a window to her doom. Ben, realizing Karen is now a threat, retreats to the basement and barricades the door. He is now trapped with the reanimated corpses of Harry and Helen. In a grim, necessary act, he uses the rifle to put down his former companions, ensuring they won't rise again. He is utterly alone, in the dark, surrounded by death. Dawn breaks. The sound of helicopters and barking dogs replaces the ghouls' moans. Rescue has arrived. From inside the basement, Ben hears the commotion. He moves toward the light, hope flickering for the first time in hours. He emerges into the morning light, squinting, disoriented. The posse, led by Sheriff McClelland, sees a disheveled black man with a rifle. Without hesitation, without a word of challenge, they assume he is one of the ghouls. McClelland gives the order. A rifle shot rings out. Ben is struck in the head and falls. His survival, his leadership, his humanity, none of it matters. The final, bitter irony is delivered with bureaucratic calm. That is another one for the fire. The film ends not with monsters, but with the heroes. Ben's body is dragged away with meat hooks and tossed on a pyre. His story erased, becoming just another piece of cleanup in the new order.